from Mandy Plays, and in today's video I am going to tell you the beauty of storytelling in video games. Stay tuned. So video games have come a long way as a medium, not only graphically and accessibility, it's also come a very long way in storytelling. And video games offer a very unique method of telling their stories that other mediums just can't quite get. Now I love books and movies and TV shows, but video games have that certain thing that gets you immersed into the story they're trying to say in a way that, others can't compete. I love books, but I also love video games, and admittedly they kind of tell some stories better than books can. That's not to say that books don't have their place. They do have their place. They tend to tell stories that are more detailed and intricate that other mediums can't. That's why it's very difficult to have a game adapted into a movie. Now games that adapt into books tend to do better because books have the the leeway for details. Game to movie adaptations are really bad because it doesn't capture the thing that most people experience during the game, and that's not the movie's fault. Honestly, they try really hard. So the core thing that video games have that defines it is the interactiveness and the way that could make it a more immersive experience for the player and for the person who wants to get the story across. Some games might be a little more subtle about it and not really push the narrative, but other games really want you to get what the characters are feeling and the story the developers wanted to make for it. And a huge pioneer in these types of games is the indie scene. They tend to try to tell unique stories in a different way with different gameplay that makes you really invested into the characters, into the world, into the lore. And a lot of them really use the minimalistic approach, which is show, don't tell. Now that's very important because most indie games don't have the high budget to really go all out, so they use this show and tell method, which worked phenomenal. People just want to know what happened. They're not really interested in the gameplay or critique its graphics or anything. They just want to know the story, which is very cool. It shows that stories do have a place in video games, and sometimes it's priority. Now I'm just gonna put this out there. I kind of have a bias because I really love story in video games. That's why I play most of my games, and sometimes I'll even play it if the gameplay is piss poor. I'll still play it because I'm invested in the story, but that's just me. Which brings me into this other kind of thing that video games are starting to do really well, and that is interweaving gameplay and story together, where you really can't have one without the other. And a great example of this is Nier Automata, which is one of my favorite games of all time. The gameplay is very interwoven into the story that it really makes sense. Like 2B is an attack android, so her flashy attacks and things like that are explained because she's an attack android. That's what she does. The UI of 2B and 9S is also the player's UI. So when I go to save a game, that's 2B saving her data, or when I go change attack chips or defense chips, that's 2B changing her attack chips and defense chips. And even goes as far as when you die, her data goes into another 2B model and you're good as new. You can even see your dead body like right where you died. So that's a great way to tell a story in a video game, which utilizes the game part of the video game and telling a beautiful story. And I hope more games try to experiment in that direction. So I don't really cry watching movies or reading a book, but I've cried in multiple games because it was just that powerful to me. I've cried in Nier, I've cried in Final Fantasy Type 0, cried in Kingdom Hearts 2, just to name a few. And with those after game hangovers, I usually play other lighthearted games, and I think those games have a place in gaming as story games have a place in gaming. There's something for everybody, and after I'm mourning the loss of one game, I pick up the easygoing games that don't have a story, who are really, there for the gameplay and the fun. I love those games, and they're as enjoyable as story-heavy games. But with that being said, I do love a good story in a game, but I also know that not all games have to have a good story, because Lord knows we don't need tears everywhere with every game. Some games are just meant for the fun and for playing with friends and stuff like that. So gaming as a whole, I think, has come a long way in the storytelling department. It's not as much as gameplay over story. It's more gameplay that fits the story, that makes gaming a very unique experience. We have cinematic experiences, we have visual novels, we have walking simulators, you name it. And I think that's awesome for the gaming industry, and we've grown from our Pac-Man days into this beautiful art form and the beauty of storytelling in gaming. So that's it for my video. If you liked it, please leave me a like. I would appreciate it. And if you like videos like these and many more, please consider subscribing. I would also appreciate that, and thank you. And you can reach me on my Twitter at Mandy Plays. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and play a good game.